pastor of the Methodist Church in western New York, and we would go every time I went to a Methodist meeting. We sang that song. I decided it was the Methodist national anthem, but I've never heard a song more beautiful. That was so pretty. Thank you. The name of that is the Summons, isn't it? The Summons, and it's not only it sort of sums up, doesn't it, a lot of at least what I desire for me in my relationship with God. So thank you for sharing that. A second gospel reading for today is found in Mark 10, beginning with verse 35. That's on page 47 in the New Testament portion of your Pew Bible if you want to read along. These Bibles are divided in number from the Old Testament and the New Testament, so that's why I have 47 there in the back of the book here. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I baptize with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and the baptism which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at the right hand or at the left hand is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." May the Lord bless this reading of Holy Scripture. Carrie, the issues are similar to the one when you preached a few weeks ago, aren't they? Debating over who's to be highest in the group, the most important in the group. 40 years ago, that seems really strange for me to say that. I started to say near the end of the last century, which even sounds even stranger to me and to some of you. One of the prevalent themes of Christian writers was discipleship. And of course, discipleship is always a current issue, a current concern. How do we grow in our understanding of Jesus, becoming more like Jesus? How do we walk the way that Jesus wants us to walk? How do we do that? And that's discipleship. That's what he did with those that were clustered around him, those 12 and others that were around him and who learned what God was like from walking with Jesus. And so back in the latter part of the last century, which was before some of you were born, I think. There were writers who were writing about discipleship. And one of the most prominent, a person that wrote really sort of a book that has become a classic is Richard Foster. And his book was called Celebration of Discipline. And to this book, he added several other books. He wrote a book on simplicity. And he wrote a book on prayer. And he wrote a book entitled Money, Sex, and Power, The Challenge of the Disciplined Life. And one day I was reading this book in the bakery at Mississippi State. The bakery was sort of like a coffee shop, and it had big windows that actually ran from over the top and down the side. So as people walked by, they could look in and see who was in there having a good time eating bakery goods and drinking coffee. So I was sitting there and I was reading this book, it's Money, Sex, and Power, and the title in the title of the book is in real bold print, Money, Sex, and Power. And so one of my friends, the professor, was walking by and he looked over there and he tapped on the window and he said, because he couldn't see the subtitle, which is The Challenge of the Disciplined Life. Seeing the title of what, and in the Foster wrote this and chose this title for his book, because it seemed to him that the things that challenged the disciplined life, the life of following Jesus, could be sort of clustered around those three words: money, sex, and power. Now, you get right down to it, you can probably see how all those things are sort of connected to each other. Power, sex, and all those money, all those things come together. But he divided his book into those three parts. Throughout history, probably those who have sought to pursue the way of God, the ways of God, have seen these as challenges. And when priests take vows, they take vows of poverty, abstinence, and obedience. Do you see how those fit with the money, sex, and power? And the Puritan values of simplicity, fidelity, and service also fit with those three concerns. Now, at the end of the week, rereading today's gospel, I'm almost tempted to abandon my planned sermon and pursue these, but I won't. Okay? But as we look at the passage I just read, it is clear that James and John, their request to sit on Jesus' right hand and right side and left side, when he came to his power, was not just a request to be close to him. They weren't asking, help us get in real close with you. What they were saying was, we want to be your agents. We want to be the power brokers for your kingdom. We want to be the ones that are helping call the shots. Now, having three sons, I also know that probably that would have not settled it if Jesus said, okay, you can be on my right and left hand, because then we would have to decide who was going to be on the right and which was going to be on the left. In the cars, it usually had to do with where the windows were, as we drove along. And because I want to underscore something else today, we will not pursue the subject of power except to note that its obsession is truly disruptive to fellowship. The scriptures say that when the others picked up on what James and John were asking, they were really angry. Why do you think they were angry?
They wanted the power for themselves.
They wanted the power for themselves. Yeah. Have you been there? When there's something that you really would want, but didn't quite think it was right to ask for it, and somebody else walks up and asks for it, and there they walk away with it. They get the raise. You give it all the work, they get the raise. Yeah. And so there's this, the quest for power, the desire for power and authority, and which sort of blends in with the desire for recognition and for a blessing that seems to say that you're a person of word. Those drive us and cause us to look at each other, look around, and to be envious. And Second sidebar that I want to mention is that, is how Jesus defined powerful people. The powerful people in the kingdom, the ones that, would be given any kind of authority were people who were servants. They were the ones that, and so what power looked like was not prosperity of prominence, but power looked like was serving other people. Now, sometimes that gets lost, doesn't it, even in Christian organizations. When we, and it certainly gets lost as for Christians who are serving or working, or as we all do in the world. And in reality, all of us are in places where we have power to give and use. And if we see that the way that we are to be powerful is to serve, Okay, this is not what I came to tell you today. The next 2 Sundays will be special emphases. We'll have special emphases. Next Sunday will be spiritual care Sunday, or pastoral care Sunday. And next Sunday we will highlight, and affirm, and those who have served as chaplains, and those who are currently serving as chaplains. And we'll talk about a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about what does it mean to provide pastoral care. And so we'll have a special pastoral care Sunday next Sunday. Barbara will be back from Italy. Did you know she was in Italy? Yeah, Barbara's in Italy, and she'll be back. And others, Carrie will be here. Carrie will be here next week. And you guys will be here. And all of us will be here. Okay, so it'll be a time for us to talk about spiritual care. On the next Sunday, we will have will be All Saints Sunday, and we will remember those that we have lost, those that have gone on and who are not physically present with us. So you might be thinking about that over the next 2 weeks. There will be an opportunity for you to light a candle for someone that, or for several that you've lost within the whatever period of time you want to include your time of grieving. Today, we read 2 passages of Scripture. Beth read 2 passages of Scripture, one from Genesis and then one from Matthew. I asked her to read those because I wanted for us to see that always, or throughout the Scriptures, the writing of the Scriptures, all seem to be attempting to say how the people of God view their role in the world in connection with God. In the first passage, Beth read about the God is portrayed as creator, and he placed humans in this creation. In Genesis, it's called the garden. And so the people who are placed in the garden, the humans, are the caregivers, the caretakers, the gardeners. Now, sometimes Christians have seen this as permission to plunder. We are in charge. We're more important than the White House. We are more important than the air. We're more important than living right now. Everything is immediate. And so sometimes gardeners, the gardener cannot see beyond this season. And so, but I wanted us to see that there is an emphasis there from Old Testament on, that we have been placed in this world in order to take care of it, and we have responsibility. Then the second the second passage, Beth's favorite passage, was a story that Jesus used to emphasize how we are, how his followers were and are to use that which they have been given. Talents in the scriptures, what we're talking about, it was money. It was money. But it could also, when I was a kid, I always thought it was talking about talent. Like the talents that we have, the gifts that we have, the abilities we have. But in this case, it's talking about money. And the wealthy person calls three of his servants together, and he gives one 10, one 5, and one 1. And he leaves. And the expectation was that they would invest that money. And the expectation was they would invest it for the person who had given them the money, the wealthy, the landowner, the ruler. And so when he came back, the two had invested, and they were affirmed, and then the third was to say was given a hard time. Was given a hard time, now Jesus speaks in hyperboles a lot. Now, if you're sitting there and you listen to Jesus and you're not paying attention when he says, and the third one was casting down in darkness and gnashing of teeth, all of a sudden you said, I must have missed something there. What was it he said about this? Because that's not where I want to be. But Jesus often spoke in hyperboles, and there was a kind of Jewish humor in it too. That when people, you see, how many of you actually saw Godspell? The older, some of us, Jews and I. But in Godspell, there's this, it's sort of it's a 60s setting, 70s setting, and when Jesus is telling his parable, the kids in it are acting it out, and there's this, and when it talks about the bad that can be done to the one who doesn't who has not done right, they do this kind of thing, emphasizing, catching the attention of all. And I think that's sort of what Jesus was doing. Now, what I wish Jesus had done, because Jesus didn't ask me, but what I wish Jesus had done would have been, there would have been at least one of these who had invested and lost everything. The two that invested profited. But because sometimes that's my fear. I have the fear of the one that had the one talent. That if I invest this, I will lose it. Then I will not have anything when the master comes. And so Jesus was. I wish there had been one more person in there that said, and then Jesus could say, "You took the money, you invested it, you attempted, you risked. Well done, well done. I'm going to take the money from the 10 and give it to you." But I wish that there was this one more person in there, one more example. And the reason what I want to point out today, because the next 2 weeks we would be busy, I wanted to highlight for us today that one of the things that we have been given in this country is the power of the vote. And we are, unlike other countries, unlike countries that are ruled by despots and sheiks and dictators, we have power. We have been given something by our system. Sometimes we read the scriptures and it talks about how the people of God related to the government. And in those, and there are passages that say you should honor those that are in authority. And you should pray for them. That's all they could do. was to honor and pray for them. Because they lived in societies, the governments of those days were dictatorial. There was you lived under the heel of the Roman government. You lived under the heel of the religious establishment in Jesus' day. And so, but in our day, we are stewards of the government, of our government. And the vote is that which we have been given. And see, how we invest our vote determines what kind of government we're going to have. Does it not? So this is a gift. This is the talent you've been given. Now sometimes I have seen that talent and I thought, boy, that's sort of the one. That's the one talent, isn't it? That's not much. What difference does it make whether I vote or not? But some of you still watch cable TV and not just getting all of your information from the internet. But now this is the season of commercials, isn't it? Do you see all the political commercials that are coming through your televisions? So they come through television. If you're not watching, if you don't get cable or TV, you're not missing or you're being saved. But obviously the vote is an important thing because millions of dollars are being spent for your vote, for my vote. And so that which I could look at and say, this is nothing. This is just one. There's no reason for me to use this. Obviously people feel like people who want to run the country, people who have opinions about how we should run the country, they feel very strongly that they want your vote. They want your vote. Your vote is powerful. It's a 10, not a 1. It's important. So why do we vote? I was reading in Sojourner magazine, and there were like 7 people who were asked to write little essays. Richard Rohr was one of them. He says, voting is a decisive statement of Christian faith that I matter, justice matters, and others matter. Myrna Perez, who's New York University Law School, said, I vote because many of my brothers and sisters can't. So I vote for those who can. And Estapos Santiago, who's with the Hip Hop Caucus, he said, connecting young people to the civic process is why he votes. And then Randy Woodley, who's a professor of faith and culture in Portland, Oregon, says voting is the easiest part of the process for making positive change, and is the very least that I can do to maintain my integrity. Grace Chison Kim said, for Asian Americans, access to vote was slow in coming. So I'm going to vote because it was slow in coming, or it was slow in coming for my ethnic group. Sister Norma Pimentel says, God created us to be a community responsible for each other. Voting is one of the ways that we show that responsibility. Barbara Williams Skinner said, pastors and lawyers will provide, by voting, a moral and legal presence against voter suppression. So why do you vote? Do you vote? Do you vote? You guys vote? Mm-hmm. Any of you feel like no need? I know you don't. After all this, don't say it. You might get Ashley. But I was thinking that for me, I vote because that is one of the things that I can use in my stewardship. I am a steward of this government. I am a steward of it. And just like a gardener who takes care of the garden, my vote is an attempt on my part to take care of the government that will touch my life and the life of many others. So I just wanted to share that. It has to do with power. It has to do with, and when deciding how to vote, we have to realize that our vote is powerful. And so the way that we vote is the way of service. If Jesus says, when Jesus says to James and John and to his disciples that if you want power in my kingdom is serving others. Your vote should serve others. When we think about how we're voting, we should think, how does this serve? Just as we think about investing any part of ourselves and any of the things that God has given us. How will